Hi, it's Marcus. Just checking
Hi,
in if you can
Marcus.
hear me.
Can hear you.
Good. Thanks.
Everything is live now. Um, First committee I have is up is Public Works. If that's okay, we can move ahead
We're
with
fine
that.
with Public Works. Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, manager's update. I just have two outstanding items. The other thing is does not have a report. The sewer vector is we're close now, assuming you want to continue with this, to getting everything down on it. We do have a price now that is as far as I can tell from Jim Thielacker, that it is a final price, but it has to be locked in by everybody agreeing to go ahead and order it. The total is $465,000 plus. Our share would be $232,818.50. And the idea of Wilkins, by the way, is fine with this so far. The delivery estimate is 12 to 14 months, and you would still have to approve the agreement and ordinance that Steve Corbel has reviewed, that Wilkins is also using. So that could be on the agenda on the 15th, but it would be helpful if you think you want to move ahead with it to at least give us the go-ahead to say we can place the order because of the length of time it's going to take to get it. So, yes, Ms. Martin.
I didn't mean to get in front of you, Mr. Watkins. I wasn't sure if Mr. Morris was finished speaking. I just wondered, I like everything you're saying there, and I would certainly vote yes. When you said that we would authorize ordering the truck, does that mean we have to put money down as well?
Jim, are you on? Jim Thielacker, I don't remember. He was the one who was talking with the company.
Yeah, I'm here.
Do we have to put money down to order the vector? Do you know?
Not that I know of. No,
No.
I don't think so.
Okay. So if you're okay, again, I would give Jimmy the go ahead to at least work with Wilkins and get the order placed, and then on the 15th would approve the documents Mr. Corbel has prepared. I think those went out in draft form to everybody to look at. I don't know if there's any changes that need to be made or anything. That'd be up to Mr. Corbel. But
I'd say go ahead.
I'd say we make the recommendation to proceed.
okay, and again, funds would come out of the corrective action money, and we would not take out a loan as we discussed last month. We would borrow from ourselves, and that Wilkins intends to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will put on for a vote on as far as the ordinance and agreement, and I will give Jim. I'll talk to Jimmy tomorrow, although he's on here now, and we can go ahead and place the order. I'll make sure that Wilkins is aware of that.
There is
Go ahead.
There is one other issue, and that's with our current back truck. There are some parts that have been on back order. Because of COVID, a lot of parts are on back order. These parts are hard to get. I think that we should probably give Public Works some flexibility in terms of how they're going to get these leaves up, because the part could come in a week, could come in a month.
Oh, yeah. Jimmy has that under his report too. He was going to talk a little bit about that
All right.
tonight too. But I agree with you, Mr. Watkins. I think that it makes sense to at least use the existing equipment right now. Otherwise, it's going to get so far ahead. You're going to get so far behind. You're going to have a lot of people complaining about it, especially as you get closer to the holidays, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas. They'll want to know that their streets have been cleared if they're having family come in or what have you. So, that's what Jimmy, I believe, is going to recommend. Jim, did you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, sure. I just talked to the factory that's making the repairs on the leaf truck, and they're supposed, like you said, Steve, they're supposed to have the part in either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. They're gonna put it on. They're gonna try the truck probably Monday, it sounded like from what she said. And if it tests okay, then we'll be able to pick it up probably Wednesday or even possibly Tuesday. I've already got the freight company scheduled to pick it up Wednesday morning, but I might even be able to get them Tuesday.
Okay, but you could get started on the leaves a little bit earlier though, right? With the
Yes.
regular, with the old equipment, just to get
Yes.
some stuff
Yes.
done.
Yes.
Yeah, because they're starting to come down pretty heavy on a different.
Yeah,
different
and I
speeds.
know Annette's getting a ton of calls. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And how many workers would that entail using the old equipment?
5 people. Either the 2 loaders and the dump trucks or the tow behind unit with the 2 boxes on. My theory is that I think we're gonna try to get the main thing is to get the stuff off the roads. And then once we get the leaf truck back, we'll go back and pick everything up that's back on the people's property on the yards so that we can eliminate the hazards, because the hazards are when it rains, the leaves get wet. People start pushing them down the street, they start sliding. They're going into our storm sewers and stuff. So that's what I'm recommending that we should probably try to do.
and Jimmy and I talked about this earlier, and as manager, I was giving him the okay to go ahead because we don't want to wait too long and get too far behind. So unless, council wants to overrule that.
One of the things I'll say is that I've driven around, and if you do drive around, what you may see is a skid mark where somebody hit the leaves and they slid down the street. We'd hate to see something like that into an intersection. It causes an accident, or a pedestrian walking across the street, and because a car is half on leaves and they lose all of the traction and someone gets injured. The other downside is that we've got so many leaves in places where it could potentially catch a fire from the catalytic converter. So I would recommend that we just do what we have to do until the leaf vac truck comes in.
Anybody else? Okay, so the sewer vector truck, well, that's of course separate from the leaf, but the sewer vector truck will go ahead with that and also have it on the agenda, the agreement and the ordinance for vote on the 15th. Then I wanted to update you on the street sweeper. I didn't have it at the time I put this on here. I was going to ask Jimmy to update, but he did tell me earlier that he believes they're going to be able to bring one in to try out on Monday. Jim, do you want to talk about that for a minute? Street sweeper?
Yeah, Steve. Actually, they're not bringing it to us. I'm going to North Huntington tomorrow
Oh,
to look at one from one company. So I'm going out there tomorrow morning. I'm going to be out there at 9 o'clock. They don't have a demo unit right now to bring in for us to try yet.
how many different companies have you talked to?
Well, I called another company, and the fella called me back, and I got to call him back. I missed his call. So 2 so far.
Okay. Is it likely that one of them would bring something in to look at?
It doesn't sound like it. I think the other company, he said that possibly towards the end of November, they may have a demo unit.
Okay. So that's where things stand with that right now. I just wanted to update you on that. The existing street sweeper we have though, Jim, is operational, correct?
We got it repaired here. We took it out just a little bit. We're keeping our fingers crossed it's going to work.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yes, I do. I'd like to recommend that we place an order for a sweeper that will become available probably a March, April timeframe from US Municipal. They have a unit coming in. It's going to be the same unit that they're going to be looking at tomorrow. There's no cost to us, and we could cancel if we have to. So I would highly recommend it. They have 2 units. One is already spoken for.
Okay, did we? have to-
Angela, are you also suggesting that we put a deposit down that is refundable?
No deposit required.
No deposit required.
Does
Okay,
Jimmy have the contact information for them? Mr.
That's
Bode?
where he's going tomorrow.
Okay, oh, so that's where, okay, fine. So Jim, you've heard all that, correct? We can go ahead on that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I don't have anything else to report under manager's update.
okay, well, thank you very, very much. Next on our agenda is the foreman's report and the engineer's report. Is the engineer available or a representative for the engineer?
Yes, thank you. Sean Wingrove. I did introduce myself earlier, but I think it was before everybody was on. In for Kevin this evening. I think I've met a handful of you. It was good to meet everybody else, at least virtually tonight. Dalton Max with me as well. I think most of you know Dalton from our office. So being first time here, so do my best to fill in. I'm happy to answer any questions of council as we go here. We give a little update and then can circle to questions. But I think you all have a copy of the report on the agenda. Just a few highlights under roadway and public improvement projects. I think big item for this month on the first page, at least items 2, 3, and 4. The Watt Lane Headwall Project, Forest Hills Road Drainage, and 2023 Roadway Improvement Program. We're at the finish line for all of those projects. Final pay requests, final change orders have been transmitted to the borough for closeout and action at your upcoming regular meeting. So happy to report that those ones are complete. Jumping ahead a little bit to number 7, under roadway and public improvement, we did transmit over a copy of a proposed list for 2024 with some budget information for the road program, for the borough's review and council review, based primarily on the road study that we prepared that Kevin reviewed with the group last month. So road specifically, and then a number of other projects from a budgetary perspective, forwarded some information, I think the end of last week. I guess the 30th was Monday, actually. MS4's no big update there. As I imagine was reported before, we did submit the annual report before the September 30th deadline. So that's in. New item under MS4 and a grant related item. So the local share account grants are due at the end of November. Imagine Kevin's talked to you about these in the past. We've got a handful of these and a couple other under another committee, but the Public Works Committee project is Forest Hills Park at the main park, a repair to the outfall area. So a head wall, an end wall and some riprap. Anticipated project cost there is $125,000. So we prepared grant application there. We sending over resolution and asking for council's consideration on action for that at your regular meeting, the middle of the month here. So that can be submitted before the November 30th deadline. There is no required match with LSA. So 125,000 is the grant request and the project anticipated total. From there, I guess quick updates from sewers in the packet. There is an attachment that shows a breakdown and a location map that goes with it of basically the punch list items left. The repairs, a few dig repairs, handful of segments to be lined to get to the finish line here for regionalization so that the borough can pass off these multi-municipal trunk sewers onto Alka Sand. So that's in the packet. Big takeaway there is budget we prepared for planning for 2024. think those are the big picture updates. I see a couple of hands there, so happy to answer questions or go into depth on either of those for Ms. Martin or Mr. Morris.
Can I go first, please, Mr. Morris, or would you? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wingrove, for that report. I did want to talk about the 2024 road selection.
Sure.
Okay, and we had first got an all roads report, which was very concise and helpful. And I wanted to note that when I look at the roadway totals compared from the all roads to the 2024, there are slight differences. Is that because, well, I don't know because.
Yeah.
Why would that be? So say, for instance, the first one we're looking at is Trenton Avenue. It's not large. It's a couple of grand, or I don't know, 1,500. Could you explain that, please?
Sure. In specific, I need to do a quick comparison of what was in the overall road study in this table. What I imagine is, as we look at the overall road study, just from a perspective of looking at the dozens and dozens and dozens of roads that are in the borough, that gets a little bit more of a high level look. And there's some assumptions made there so that it doesn't become this monumental task to look at everything at the head of a pin of all of these roads. When we get down to preparing a more specific OPC or more specific estimate for, a more finite set of roads, we can go into a little bit more detail, look at some more specifics and, add items, drainage, look at line striping, look at some other stuff in more detail. And sometimes that can cause some variation as we take a more focused look.
I see. Now, continuing on, so I'm going back to the all roads list.
Sure.
I see now the first two items, the street rating is 1, which I believe pretty much it means the road has failed. And I'm happy that we're doing Trenton Avenue in the 2024 bid. But then now, for instance, Rustic Alley. Rustic Alley is a long road. And I see Public Works is constantly having to repair our roads and patch. So now this is rated a 1, but then the list we're getting, Trenton is a 1, the 2024 list, but then Berkeley's a 4, Vine Alley's a 4, the other 3 are 5s. I would suggest a change that we take Consul, and I'm just throwing this out there. We have 2 1s and 3 2s. I would eliminate Laurel Way this year. So we're doing Trenton Avenue, the entire Rustic Avenue, Service Road 2, as well as Clover Alley. Additionally, we have 2 3s. When I total all of those, and I'm taking the higher, Mr. Wingrove, the roadway total from the all roads, it comes right under what our budget is of 300,000. It's like 299,598. This way, Public Works does not have to continuously patch all these different roads. And truthfully, the 2024, it looks a little subjective. Why is one road rating 4 put on the paving list, but yet I see several here on the all list? So I'm suggesting we do all the 1s, Service Road 2, Clover Alley, oh my, an unnamed alley 5, and unnamed alley 2. Does anyone else have any comment?
Barb, I would be inclined to agree with you on that, but my question is that I thought we were getting away from these subjective decision makings where roads that are 4s and 5s are getting paved, while we still have roads that are 1s and 2s that are not getting paid. So how can someone who made these decisions enlighten me and the rest of council as to how we get roads that are fours that are on our list.
Mr. Watkins, I totally agree, because when I drove down all these roads with Mr. Bioki, some of them don't even have homes. They don't have driveways where our residents are driving. Some of them don't even have houses on them. So that was why I suggested what I did. Thank you.
I'll actually kind of jump in and help field that one a little bit. So the road selections were made following a review of myself with Mr. Thielacker. He and I reviewed this table extensively, and it was in some conversations with him that these road decisions were made. They were based on costs to kind of get us to the 300,000. And they were also based, I believe, Mr. Thielacker, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but some of this was based on level of traffic, as well as some roads that would be better served to be repaired for winter snow plowing, and also trying to make sure that some attention was being given to alleys and local roads.
Yeah, that's correct, Dalton. And him and I rode around and looked, and that's how we come up with this list here. We have an alley on there. So,
well, what I noted when we rode around is all the ones listed here have Public Works has to constantly go and patch them. So my suggestion to not be subjective and to just go from worse up is based on what the all rating was. Because who's to say 1-4 needs it more than another 4? This way, Public Works will not have to do as much patching. When I looked at the all report, the only 10 was Service Road 3. So if we start looking at the worst first, maybe there'll be less work for Public Works.
just the one. Okay. The one thing, Barb, up there, when Dalton and I rode like up onto Berkeley Avenue, if you take a ride up, we paved Cedar and Lee a few years back, and that's the only section that's left. We're going to lose that road this winter, probably, if it's a bad winter. It's going to totally blow apart. And that's why that's on there. The number, I think it was numbered 4 on there. And I really couldn't understand why that was number 4. That actually should be a number 1. But
well, there was a number 4 and actually a number 5, Mr. Thielacker.
Okay, and where was number 5 at? I don't have the list in front of me, boy.
Yeah, that was Berkeley was broken up into 2 areas. The first part was from Cedar Avenue to the no outlet sign, which is the largest, the 1,200 feet. That was the 4. But then the one from Ardmore to the no outlet sign, which is only 85 feet, that's the 5.
Okay, and yeah, and we weren't when Dalton and I rode that, we didn't recommend to pave all the way out to Ardmore. We were gonna stop. It's like where that other we don't maintain that alley right there, but it's right to there. The reason that's broke up is because that starts really Trenton Avenue there at the end of Berkeley there, and I think that's why that's in 2 parts. But we were not going all the way out to the Ardmore because there's a section of nice concrete there that doesn't need anything there.
Yeah, Jim, if I jump in real quick, that was split up because the road from the no outlet sign up to Cedar was bituminous, and that smaller area at the bottom was broken out because it's currently concrete. So there was a plan to basically mill that concrete and overlay with bituminous, whereas the rest of the road is already bituminous and would be a different type of, a different work with a different unit price to it.
Okay.
I could be mistaken, but I thought for sure that we had acquired a software program that was supposed to evaluate the roads, or that LSSE had a more scientific, objective way of evaluating the roads? Am I mistaken?
The road evaluation is a visual evaluation. It's done manually, taking a look at the road, evaluating the cracking, the potholes, all of those sorts of factors, and assigning a rating to each of those categories, and it creates a weighted average to give the road a number, basically.
And that procedure was followed to get to where we are now.
Correct. To frame out the total road rating list, as best as you can, prioritize the roads and have that as a framework to look at each year of, starting at the top. And I mean, ultimately there's other considerations to go in there of you do get efficiency as roads are grouped together, mobilization is down, that kind of thing, and better unit prices. So the dollar stretches. You'll see that the roads here are relatively clustered as far as physical location within the borough. So I think that's part of it. And Dalton and Mr. Thielacker mentioned some other factors that go into the consideration, in addition to just kind of black and white, what's the number that was assigned.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion?
Angelo has a hand up and Mr.
Okay.
Morse has a hand up.
I didn't see your hands. Mr. Who would prefer to go first?
Mr.
Go ahead,
Morris
Angelo.
has his hand up.
Go ahead, Angelo, that's fine.
Okay. So, Mr. Mack, I just, well, first of all, let me say that I agree with Barb about the roads. Obviously, we drove around together looking at them and trying to understand what the ratings were compared to what we were actually seeing. There was a mention that one of the factors was the amount of traffic that a particular road received. To my knowledge, we haven't done any traffic evaluations on any of those roads. So was that just a empirical kind of number that was thrown out there?
So the traffic rating, there was no traffic study done to evaluate the level of traffic. Some of that traffic consideration was based on conversations that I had with Mr. Thielacker while we were driving the roads, given his extensive history with the borough. We took that into consideration based on both the traffic that he's observed and also winter maintenance that he made mention of as well.
So it is possible that some of those alleys could possibly have more traffic than some of the roads. It's highly unlikely, but it's possible.
It's possible. There was no strict scientific method that we evaluated traffic across all of the roads. It was just based on Mr. Thielacker's history with the borough.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Morris?
Yeah, this is very brief. Sean, I would just ask you had mentioned several different things that would be on an agenda for council to consider for a vote, and I just wanted to let you know Kevin usually lets me know how he wants something worded or motion or what have you. So if you just pass it on to Kevin, it'd be helpful if I could have it by middle of next week.
Okay.
As to what he wants on there, so I can put a draft agenda together. That's all I had.
Yeah, we can lump them into one email, just a quick summary of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Thielacker, are you ready for your manager's report?
Mr. Watkins,
Yes?
since two council members have already agreed on changing the 2024, considering the 2024 paving list, what are your thoughts?
I'd like to know when we have to make a decision on that, and perhaps we can discuss that further before actually agreeing on it. Are you saying that it would be going up for a vote in the next committee of the whole?
Well, it'll have to be in the budget.
It'll have to be in the budget.
I think so. And I would agree with the assessment that Barb and Angela have made about the prioritization of those areas that they indicated.
All right. Anyone else? Mr. Morris, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Ms. DeMarco is correct. It would have to be in the budget. This would
Yeah.
be something you would decide early 2024 after you've approved the budget. It doesn't, the budget does not specify the roads, though. That's done
Right.
by motion later on by council. But you would want it, you wouldn't want to vote on anything until early 2024. And the reason why you would want to wait till at least January also is because since this is an election year, council is allowed to reopen the budget in January if they so desire. So even though it usually doesn't happen that way, you want to make sure that you have something final before you do anything.
Let me
Here's Marcus.
suggest,
Here's Marcus. Can I say something, please?
go ahead,
Remember-
Marcus.
Remember, road paving is actually not in a regular budget. We have the
Right.
extra mill for it. So it's
in the
actually
liquid
not.
fuels budget.
Yes.
Let me make a suggestion that since the cost is the same, that we move ahead with 300,000 and we can decide on the roads in January. Any objection to that?
That's good.
Okay, we'll move ahead like that. Mr. Thielacker? Are you
Yes.
available?
I'm here.
Okay,
Hi. My foreman's report, I got a list of the projects for November. There was a couple that I forgot to add on there, and I'm just gonna read them real quick. We got to also install the Christmas lights and put the tree up for light up night at the Bird Building. And we also, we're gonna be starting, well, we actually started already. We're prepping all equipment for snow removal work this winter. If anybody has any questions on anything on that list, please speak up and ask me. And then I have a list there of projects completed. If anybody has any questions. And number two, the last thing that I have, we got Annette took a phone message from a lady from the 1844 Veterans Building at the corner of Braddock and Ardmore. And they're asking us to help them with excavating for the foundation of the sculpture. Back a few years ago, would council had okayed us to possibly help them pour concrete. But that something happened. I don't know. The project went away for a while. So she's asking us now to help with the excavating for the foundation. So I just wanted to bring that up.
No.
Is that project in motion again, Jimmy, as far as you know? We were trying to figure out who's in charge of it nowadays.
That I got a phone number and a name,
Okay,
Patty. So
yeah, if you could send me that, I'd like to give her a call because the Rotary wanted to get involved and they didn't know who to contact. So if you have a contact, I'd appreciate it.
yeah, I do.
Thank you.
Yep.
okay. I couldn't tell who had their hand up first, whether it was Ms. Martin or Mr. Morris.
Barb can go.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Thank you, Mr. Watkins.
Mhm.
Mr. Thielacker, I looked at your list and it doesn't look like to me, given the work schedule that you're telling us about, that Avenue L or the Ardmore Planter project would be finished this year.
Well, at Avenue L, I'm trying to get it finished. We just ran into another dilemma today. We got a concrete truck ordered for tomorrow morning. We're pouring concrete around every post except the main one for a big slide, and the railing is the wrong one. There was no way we could tell until we put this slide up. And we've ordered the other piece, but it may be 2 weeks out. So, but we're gonna cement everything else in.
Well, I suggest then for next year if either of these projects or both are not completed, then we should look for outside help. This way it'll take your workload down. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr.
If I could follow up and
Go ahead, Mr. Lawrence.
on the question of the supporting the digging and possibly helping with the concrete foundation, I'd like to reopen the decision from 2 years ago. I don't think that's a good idea. Public Works has got a lot going on, and at the point that we devote 1 or 2 persons' labor to that, I don't know what's our liability if they're injured in the process of doing this. You know, who's going to be responsible for that? I just don't think it's a good idea. Anybody else has any comments? That's all I have to say.
Mr. Morris?
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Morris?
Yeah, my comments actually related exactly to that. My advice and my recommendation to Jimmy was that we do not go and help them with that because first, it's private property. And second, as you've seen from all the comments here, they have an awful lot to do, including, as Mr. Lawrence mentioned. So unless you want to overrule that, I've suggested to him that I don't want them doing that. So I just want to make sure you understand that that's what's going to happen unless you want to overrule.
I don't believe we want to overrule, but also we don't know how deep that footer needs to go, and we would not want to run into a situation where we damage other pipes or electrical wiring below the statue and then become liable for who knows what amount in repairs.
Well,
I believe that 2 years ago we did agree to help with the cement. I'm perfectly fine with that, but not necessarily for expanding.
they have to do a one call. They can't just dig. And there has to be a one call that would have anybody who has lines in that area have to mark them. So that you're aware of it. So again, I didn't remember any agreement about actually putting people there to dig anything on there. That's so yeah. So, okay.
But even with the one call, things can still go wrong.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe there was a sewer line that they were putting in on Braddock, headed up towards Brenton. And even with the one call, when I believe what happened, Mr. Thielak would have more information on this, but when they were refilling the earth, they broke a sewer line that was down below, and then they became responsible for having to dig up all of that all over again and fix the sewer line. So it's something that could go from bad to worse real quick. So I think that if we did agree, and I'm pretty sure we talked about having someone go over to help with the cement, but nothing more. All things considered. Okay, are there any other issues?
Yes, I have a comment.
Yes, please.
First of all, I concur with Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Morris. And I would also add that I don't believe that we should be doing any of the work there. The Rotary Club wants to get involved. They could possibly provide the means to do whatever concrete work that needs to be done and any digging if they so desire. So I think we should be out of it altogether.
All right. I tend to agree with you on that. One of the last things I'd like to say is that Public Works did a great job on the Watt Lane head wall. And if anyone on council could get a chance to just park on Braddock and take a walk down and look at it, the millings were used appropriately, and it's a very nice path. Also, if we have citizens who are listening to this meeting, please go up and take a look at the Watt Lane project. It's a very nice project. You'll get a chance to see how your tax dollars were actually used. If there are no other questions or no other items to bring up, that concludes Public Works.
Okay, nothing else. So give me a second here. We'll go to Borough Property as soon as I find my, there we go. I'm fine, Miss Martin, if you're okay to start Borough Property.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Morris, please.
Okay, I have some outstanding items there that's nothing new, so I'm not going to go into that. We started going through the electronic equipment, the data room that could be disposed of because it's useless or no longer operational or what have you. And following the new resolution, which the language of which I posted there, we need to follow those points under small a, Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I've started listing the things that we can get rid of that are, again, either not working or old or what have you. And I hope to get a few more. What I will do then is put this list on the November 15th agenda for Ms. Martin to have there as part of her report. And then we'll follow that direction there where, we'll have that posted on the bulletin board and, see if anybody wants to submit a bid on any of that stuff. Does anybody have any? I hope to have more stuff, but right now that's what I have. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I just want to applaud you for your efforts with this, Mr. Morris. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so I'll do that, and anybody again will be able to an employee or a resident or whatever council member can certainly submit a bid if anybody wants to do that. But then after that, we'll dispose of it. I don't have anything else to report.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reamer, was there anything you wanted to talk about for the rec board?
There's not a whole lot to report, just obviously the Westinghouse Lodge is started, as we know, the roof's going. The pool has been rented. A lot of people are moving over to there for the rentals. So from that standpoint, I think every Saturday has been booked for November and December. So from that standpoint, we're in good shape and just putting things together now for the 2024 season with the pool, pulling together numbers, and obviously, trying to work with Angelo to get this new software system up and running. But needless to say, those things are all good. And then, as we've discussed and talked about last meeting, this park project that, I'd like to get going, but with the workout.
That's later on the agenda.
I know.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Angelo
Yes.
has a question.
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
Biocchi?
Reamer. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Reamer. Are you still putting together those numbers that we requested?
Yeah, I've been working with Allison. Obviously, I took everything that you did. A lot of that has never been tracked to that finite breakdown. So we're trying to break everything out separately. Several of these things, as an example, go into one account. So breaking them down, not only for the stuff that was pre POS system, but then adding in the stuff that was POS system from the May opening through the end of the season. So I probably have about 75 to 80% of the numbers put together at this point. Just trying to put the final few numbers together for you. But yeah, we're getting there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then I'll move on to the engineer report. Is that you, Mr. Wingrove?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Martin. Again, quick update and then happy to answer question of council. The amphitheater, so we've been back and forth with CoStar supplier, Snyder Recreation. We're pushing to have an updated proposal in advance of the regular meeting this month. We send information back. They have the site plan, they have the information. So continue to follow up with them to get the new proposal. Lot of activity at the lodge. As was previously mentioned in Mr. Reamer's report, roof HVAC project is ongoing. Looking for a late November, mid-December, or in that period, completion for that project. Award has been issued to Keystone for the railing. Agreements exchanged. And we look for that to kick off here soon. We're gonna have a pre-construction meeting. We think for material delivery, lead time on materials, that'll actually be an early 2024 completion. But wheels are in motion to get that one moving. And then the next big one is the interior renovations bid. So bid documents are pulled together, forwarded bid advertisement today to the borough for review and consideration. Would propose to open bids at the end of the month, tentatively November 27th, to have bid results in for the interior renovations for council to consider, well, to discuss at your committee meeting in December and hopefully act upon at the regular meeting in December. I guess before I move on, any questions or comments on any of the Westinghouse Lodge items? Okay. Bird Sanctuary, beginning of the year, with request additional RFPs. The one that was received was over the bid threshold, so that'll be an early 2024 item. And then CFA local share account has actually been narrowed just to number 6 on the agenda. The pool locker room and ADA improvements. We'll work with Mr. Reamer there. Again, we'll have resolution, and Steve will include that in the summary email we send you. For agenda items for the regular meeting in November. That again, like I mentioned, those are the November 30th application deadlines for LSA. With that, again, quick summary, and happy to answer any questions there may be of me from council.
Mr. Wingrove, I wanted to talk about number 5.
Yes.
There was some confusion there.
Correct.
About the Speedy Mart. I was actually surprised to see it on the agenda. Council didn't agree to move forward with it, but we have had discussions with this. A grant was floated as an idea, but this was kind of just part of a larger discussion, which one of the reasons why we ended at a dead end was we still don't know if this property is actually for sale. And I guess that would be up to the borough to find out, because there's no point in us paying for services if the owner won't sell it to us.
I speak to that.
Did you have something to say, Vice President DeMarco?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have been making inquiries of the property owner. He is under the impression that he would like to put gas station there with pumps and so forth, but he has not applied for that, as far as I know, to any plan. I don't believe he's interested in selling the property at this time. I know the Forest Hills Community Alliance has approached him as well, and also had a turn down on that. So I'm not sure we should expend any design or anything on that property at this point, because the owner of the property is not in a cooperative mode on this issue right now.
Mr. Morris, your hand is up.
Yeah, just so you know, they did apply several years ago for
though,
an application, but that lapsed after a year.
Right.
So I just want to mention that there was interest.
Mr. Bioki, your hand is up.
Yes. So the owner, we're talking about the corporation that owns the Speedy Mart, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they've been approached.
Yeah. He is not resident in the town.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually would like to see if the FHCA would like to have any discussion on this. If we're planning on doing anything with the eco district, certainly their input on this would be great as well. So I guess we're going to just table that for a while, Mr. Wingrove, until we hear something positive.
Yes, that's our understanding as well. And we've received additional information, and this was on a preliminary list, and there isn't an active grant application being prepared for it.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, then I'm moving on. There's no foreman report this
Just
month.
just a second. Sorry, I lost connection, but now I'm back. Just want to say I'm back. I
Yes,
don't have a
Mr.
question.
President.
I'm back. I want just to say. So I had like some issues.
Oh, okay, thank you. Then moving forward with the committee business report, the Park Fitness Project, I had to leave the meeting last month when discussions for this were had. I understand there were some concerns raised, such as tree cutting, maintenance issues in the park. Would this be more of a Planet Fitness type equipment? And I just wanted to weigh in on that a little bit, that while no equipment is maintenance free, my understanding is this equipment is pretty low maintenance. It has a whole low maintenance component to it. And since this is being a grant application, we might be getting ahead of ourselves with some of these concerns, which I believe could be addressed if Mr. Reamer does get this grant. Now, I know, Mr. Reamer, we really like zero matching fund grants. So I'm hoping you can work your magic if council agrees. And can Mr. Reamer at least move forward to see if we can get this grant? Does anyone have any council members have any thoughts?
Ms. Martin?
Yes, Mr. Bioki.
Yeah, once again, just a follow up on what you said. I think it needs to be a zero match grant for us to even consider it. And then, we have to look then as to what exactly would be involved with implementing it.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
I
Reamer,
agree.
You would, Mr. Burley, did you care to comment?
Yes, I'm agreeing with Angela and you that we should definitely research it and look at the options of it. But it looks like the grant is something that's really good, but I think it should be allowed to happen. Yeah.
Well, I would just like to comment that I remember being in high school and doing the President's Physical Fitness Award, and I actually won it a year. So I would be very happy then. It sounds like we have no dissent. Mr. Reamer, would you please see about getting the grant for us?
Yeah, I'll look into the grant as well as, sponsorship opportunities through the various cycles and see if we can't get it all paid for.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any other questions on that? If not, I'm going to move on to the pickleball court. I just wanted to thank Mr. President for initiating the sound estimates. We've received 2 so far, I believe. Mr. Morris, did we get the 3rd yet?
I saw something coming today. I don't know. Sean, do you know if Kevin has gotten more than just those 2?
No, we've received 2. I did speak to, there was a 3rd firm that called yesterday, or actually, I guess it was Tuesday, that seemed very interested, said he was going to submit something. I haven't seen anything from them though. So just the 2 received, the one from Tuesday and the one that we got earlier today.
Well, if we get that 3rd one in before next week's meeting, maybe we could put that under Cobb, Mr. Morris?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. If there's no other comments, then we already talked about the Avenue L playground. On letter D, the application for payment to the Westinghouse Lodge, I believe Mr. Brett was going to look that over, But what I noted on there, in the material invoices, there was only one listed when there were 5 of those that had totals. And another thing I noticed was tax was applied to this as well as the metal invoice. And I wondered if the other 4 from that 5 were of some concern to Mr. Brett, or would we be able to look at all 5 of those? Does anyone have any information?
So we'll review each of the pay requests. Our typical procedure with all of our projects is we'll review the pay request for all of those matters. Is the work done? Is the work complete? Should we be paying? And we'll provide a formal recommendation to Borough Council to act on. And you'll have that before the regular meeting.
Okay,
Would
great.
would you be able to bring that in time for the Finance Committee meeting so we can see if it can be approved for payment?
Yes.
That's on the 9th.
Scheduled for next week. Yep.
Yes, thank you.
And then back to the question of tax.
Should not be allowed. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the borough does not pay tax. Mr. Morris?
Yeah, usually they'll put it on a bill, but we will submit a tax exempt form with payment or a tax exempt form prior to make sure they approve it. But that's not unusual when we get a bill. Lots of times they'll include that until we actually give them a form.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions on that? Then I'm going to move on to the last item, which are the mold remediation quotes. We've only received 2 of the 3, I understand. Now, these are well under our threshold. So would we want to wait until the next meeting to see if we could talk about the 3rd quote? Or could we just approve the lowest quote now? What do you recommend, Mr. Morris?
Well, yeah, usually you're supposed to get at least 3 phone bids. I don't know if Mr. Corbett would have any problem with that or not, but the 3rd company, for some reason, Annette's tried to get a hold of again, and they have not responded. So
Okay.
I don't know if that's just a delay or if they are ignoring it or what. So it wouldn't hurt to at least wait until committee of the whole and see if we get the 3rd.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments then? If not, that ends borough property. Thank you.
Okay, I just need to take a note about what we just said. Give me a second here and I'll go to the 3rd committee. Well, actually, the 3rd committee is public safety. And now that I think about it, I don't have anything to report anyway. So Mr. Baiocchi, you can go ahead if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Chief Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I sent out a savvy today. It's kind of concerning. We had an incident. We actually had 2 incidents in Chalfont, right on North Avenue and on Parkway Avenue, which is really close to Avenue F, where an individual went to a door and knocked on the door late night, middle of the night kind of thing. And, people actually, in one case, did answer the door. When the gentleman encountered him, he ran off. So I'm a little concerned about these kind of things. And, we didn't get the call right away, so we weren't able to respond to that particular one there. But again, I sent the savvy out mainly for the effort to get people to call 911 when they have something unusual like this, because again, people knocking on your door in the middle of the night is not a common thing. Most people, when they need help, they have a cell phone, they can call for help on their own. They don't need you to provide them with that to do it. So again, I'm trying to stress that we be careful, because this time of year, people do tend to get a little desperate for maybe something that they may want or need. And, I don't want to see anybody be a victim of some, degree, because, they may answer their door in the middle of the night when they could just call 911, and we'll certainly respond and answer that call to see who is there. And, maybe we can talk to them and see if they need help. We can certainly provide them with some sort of help. We can get them to where they need to go, maybe, or we can help them to, contact someone who may be able to come and help them. But again, I don't like these kind of things. They bother me, and I wanted to send out that message just to remind people to make the call. I know we've had pretty great increase on Savvy as far as people signing up. So hopefully we'll have any other issues like this, we'll know about it right away and we can respond quickly. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief Williams. Chief Colella.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I didn't get my formal report in for the fire department. It's too soon in a month, but I will have it for next week's meeting. But in October, we responded to 27 calls for service, which puts us at 393 calls for the year. So we're going to be pretty close to 500 this year, back up to where we usually are. And just to update council on a couple things. Moving along with the Shell Fund project, and we're looking to take over that in January 1 of next year. The windows, I was on the phone with him today. November 16th, he's going to start installing the windows. It'll probably just take him a day or two to get those done. So that project will be done. The doors are done. I've been working with the Siemens people. I believe they're coming in starting on the 13th to do some of their project stuff. And we'll be working with those folks to get that done. Another concern that we had going out for trick-or-treating and Halloween night, there's a couple roads in the borough that were very congested with vehicles, either vehicles parking for Halloween parties during Halloween and the transients coming in and out of the borough. Some streets of concern that concern us. We might have to look at next year blocking those roads off for traffic to be driving through. There's a lot of cars traveling in, dropping kids off on one end, driving to the other end, waiting for them to get done, and then driving to another street. But even in the fire trucks, driving around with lights on and everything, there was too many kids, and we're afraid that someone might get hurt running in between cars with the cars parked on the sides of the roads and not paying attention. So we're going to want to address that next year. I think that'll be a safety thing, but I think it'll be better for everyone so no one gets run over by a car during the trick-or-treating hours. And that's all I have.
Thank you. It sounds like you're ready for the winter with the doors and the windows.
Yeah, the windows and a lot of the Siemens stuff, it looks like on the list that he sent me, they're doing a lot of weather stripping and caulking and sealing. So they'll be doing all that. And like I say, before the end of November, they should be done with all that. And I think they're going to proceed with their lighting project. And I believe after that is done, then the fire department will be 100% with LED lights in the upstairs and the downstairs and outside.
Sounds good. Did you share that information about the traffic with Chief Williams?
No, I'm going to send him an email or stop up and talk to him this week after probably tomorrow or next week I'll talk to him. But yeah, that's something that we want to put in the back of our heads because it was pretty bad the other night with, like I say, vehicles driving around and everything. So, but I don't want to put it on the back burner and we'll forget about it.
Yeah.
But just to put a thought in our heads for next year. It's just 3 streets really. It's Sharon, the 100-200 block of Cascade, and the Barclay Avenue, the 200-300 block of Barclay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. EMS report. I don't believe we've received that yet. So we can move on to the business report. The Hoffman Kennel situation, that was tabled from our meeting while we look at some other possibilities. We did get a proposal from Sable Kennels, and we're looking at that. And I think what we need to do is get some additional information from Hoffman so we can compare apples to apples. The previous proposal did not have a lot of information in it. So we'll continue to work on that. Any questions on that? Okay, next item is the speed limit changes on the borough roads. We did get the result of a study that was done by a previous engineer. working on, actually McMahon is the one that did the study, and identified all the different changes that we could make on the speed limits. Basically, the roads right now that are 25 miles an hour would be down to 20. There's a few that are 20 that would possibly go to 15, but that would be all the roads in the borough. So what I'm requesting, if there's no objection, is that this be placed for a vote for the next meeting, and that it would require an ordinance change as well. Any objections?
Question.
Mr. Marco?
Is there a cost associated with re-signing or redesignating all of these roads?
Only if we need to buy some additional speed limit signs.
All right.
But
If
that
you
would,
could-
that would,
If you could, you know, try to put that in your budget request, that would be helpful to know what that would be.
yeah, I actually have made requests for additional signs for next year.
Okay.
And that should be sufficient to cover it.
Okay, it's included in the request you made already then.
Yes.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Morris?
Yeah, and that was in the first draft of the budget I
Okay.
gave you. I
Thank you.
also want to mention, so you're not actually approving on November 15th the speed limit change. You're approving, you're authorizing the solicitor to draft an ordinance for that, and then in December that would be specifically approved.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yes, thank you. Next item is the removal of outdated warning signs. We have a number of signs, and we've discussed this. The citizens, you know, the watch signs. There are some parking signs that need to be removed. And I just bring that up in that we need to set up some process where Public Works can go around and begin the removal of some of those signs. There's a few signs that are still pending the finalization of the advertisement from the solicitor for some of those ordinances that would finalize that, you know, no parking signs in some areas. But we need to look at some way to start removing those signs. Any questions on that? Okay, next item is the engineering report. If anyone would like to say anything about those. These were mostly the first two items were things that we've been carrying for a few meetings now. I'm more interested in perhaps item number C, if that's okay with everyone.
Sure, and I can provide an update on those. So C, A1 and 2, the proposal for one way on Pacific Avenue and Wilkins Road, we've taken a look at. We provided a draft memo to the manager just earlier today, actually, and are hoping to set up a meeting. Yourself, Mr. Biocchi, and manager, and Jim to review those draft results. We do think it's worth exploring to evaluate or to try a one-way setup on each of those roads to limit the conflict as it relates to parking because of the geometry. Similarly, we provided a draft memo with regard to the speed humps relative to the locations of the parks and a couple other locations within the borough. A little bit of an analysis both from a temporary speed hump perspective and a permanent speed hump perspective. Some of these areas that meet the guidelines, there are a couple of areas because of the grade of the road that don't. Similarly, the plan is hopefully next week we're going to set up a meeting to discuss staff level with the committee chair here as well. We'll finalize those memos then for formal presentation to council. But nearing the end of report on all of those items. The other one to add to the list that we sent over today was the request to look at cost estimate for closure of Fillmore Court, or not closure, but restriction of left turns in and out to make right in, right out only. So that was forwarded to the borough for review. Take a look from a budgetary perspective. A little bit of information about process there. We would need to go to PennDOT, probably do a traffic study, that sort of thing. But wanted to update council that some work on that was in the works as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wingrove. My understanding from speaking with I believe it was the director or assistant director for that area, that the traffic study, it wasn't necessarily a study, but basically identifying what we were going to do or planning to do. And again, I may be getting ahead of myself, but that was my understanding, that as long as we were doing the work, they didn't actually have a problem with that closure. So that's my understanding at any rate.
Yeah, maybe not full study, and I guess a matter of semantics of terms to a certain extent, but assessment, just here's it, here's how the closure will work, here's the median, and here's how we think, here's a domino effect of rerouting that, would or wouldn't, hopefully wouldn't cause an issue.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, you're the expert in that area, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Chief Williams, do you feel that you need to perhaps be involved in those first two about the change in direction of the traffic, or we're changing the parking on also on Pacific?
No, I actually agree with that. If we can do that, that would probably be beneficial.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Question.
Yes.
I wanted to inquire how we are doing on enforcing the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on Ardmore Boulevard that has been duly posted and roundly ignored, as far as I can tell. What can we do about that, and what are our options, and are we considering any specific enforcement action on the speed limit on Ardmore Boulevard? Do we have any information about that?
I can answer that. We actually have done a couple of traffic details down there with the state's funding for that. We've written, I'd say, probably close to 100 traffic citations down there. So again, we've already started to send that message of it's 35, not 40 anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're kind of getting that. With the additional equipment that's coming, we're going to have that new traffic sign out there, the traffic warning signal that'll tell you how fast you're going. We're going to have some lines that are going to be put down here. I actually just spoke to the representative from Mr. Brett's office who was going to come out and do those. We're going to have a conversation next week, probably, and maybe we have that done next week, where we'll have them at least pinned so that we can have the lines put down, hopefully before winter really gets in here. So we're in the process of doing all those things. And again, I know that the officers have been out there, and I myself included in my usual unmarked vehicle, I've been out there stopping some vehicles as well. I believe there's been some decrease in the speed, but again, we still have a ways to go, because people just, for whatever reason, they're in a hurry to get to the Parkway, for example. I don't know why, because you're not going anywhere anyways when you get there.
And
Thank you for that.
We can, in addition to the police, we can all do our part by driving 35, and it slows traffic down. So
yeah.
I get annoyed looks when I do that. I do it anyway. That concludes our report.
I did inquire about the radar legislation that's pending. Jay Costa was at our meeting on Wednesday, and he said that he doesn't see it coming out of the House. He said if it ever gets to the Senate, they would probably pass it. But there are a number of rural areas that see it as a affront to their existence, and so they're not going to vote for it. But I appreciate your efforts in this regard. I know it's an uphill battle, and I do appreciate your efforts on this.
Like every year.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now that concludes our report.
Ops and policy, Mr. Lawrence, I'm ready to go if you are.
Sure.
Okay, a couple of items. First, Environmental Advisory Council guidelines. Some of you weren't on council when we did this, but originally there were council had authorized guidelines to give to the boards so that they would understand their duties as well as what's in ordinances or resolutions that cover them, as well as sunshine law things, etc. So with the change in the Environmental Advisory Council, due to because of the ordinance that was recently passed, I updated those guidelines and I gave you a separate copy that shows you what I deleted and what I added. And basically it's just adding the language from the ordinance pretty much. So I wanted to make sure that you saw it because again, these were things that council had approved. And as you will note on there, I show on the guidelines approval by council. I'd like to make sure that council approves this as well, so that way we have something that's usable by any new members. Does anybody have any question about that or about why I submitted that to you?
Yes, Mr. Morris. Reading through that, there are some other areas of that resolution that need to be changed as well, and I can provide those comments to you later.
Sure. I should mention that the one other reason why I gave this to you too is this is another example of a policy that was established by council at one time and done by motion and by vote, and that we follow. And again, I'm not trying to cause trouble with this, but for example, one of the things that was in there was that the Environmental Advisory Council covers stormwater issues and assists with that. I know there's disagreement about that. I don't personally have a problem however you want to do it, but the problem I have is that it was in something that was approved by council at one time. So it's not something I can just say, we're not going to do it anymore. Because I'm not the one who has that power or authority. And there are other policies that are like that too. So again, if you still have that spreadsheet I gave you with a summary of policies, I would take a look at it to make sure you're okay with that, especially considering you're going to be having a new manager coming in early 2024. You want to make sure that, you either eliminate some of these things or consolidate. There are so many things that were established since I started here that I get confused about them often as well. So again, I'm not saying, for example, in this case, that the Environmental Advisory Council has to do that. I'm just saying that you have to make that change, not me. And then you have to make sure that if you're giving that job to the engineer, that you give that job to the engineer. I can't do that myself because it was approved by motion by council. So I wanted to point that out to you as this is an example of some of those things. Does anybody have any questions about what I just said? Yeah.
Yeah, I know that the Environment Advisory Council at one time was doing informational community meetings about stormwater management, rain barrels, things of that nature. And then when the Alcosan takeover thing happened, that's when it went over to the engineers because we needed to do all those trunk line studies and so on and so forth. But I don't think their interest in water conservation has disappeared. It's just that the Alcosan consolidation process kind of subsumed their function because we needed engineering analysis. And so it kind of transferred over there. I think that's where that came from. I don't think there was any intention of removing it from their purview of public information and public engagement.
Well, again,
it's
that's
my understanding anyway. I mean,
that's up to council. I'm just simply letting you know that that's something that's kind of out there. So if you want to formalize it one way or another, you should. That's all I'm saying. And that's just as an example of other policies that are like that out there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, fine. You got point well taken, Mr. Morris.
Okay. My second item is, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. My second item is that we have increased the number of people following on Savvy Citizen. Again, we're up to over 1,900 people. So just so you're aware of that. Committee vacancy reminder, you can take a look at that on your own. Again, that's nothing new. That's carryover. Item D, 2024 meeting calendar. Every year at this time, I give council a draft calendar. This is what you have attached along with a memo to tonight's agenda information. And just because this may be confusing, I show what the typical committee meeting dates usually are with the black. I show what the typical business meeting dates are with the red, or as you see in March, the red dotted line. And then I show any potential conflicts in blue. For example, in March, this is a PALRAS conference that I typically attend, and that can be a conflict. In April, you see that's ALOM, which some people attend, and that theoretically could be a conflict. So I show that. I also show the holidays in orange. Note too, in January, that the 2nd would be the organization meeting for the new council. And usually in years when you have an organization meeting in January, council does not want to add another date when they have meetings. So usually you have one committee night scheduled. That's what I'm showing there, with all 6 committees, not including committee of the whole, because you're meeting all the other committees, meeting at one time with the manager running the meeting. That's what's happened in the past. Now, I don't show you this because you need to make any decisions tonight. I was going to put this on committee of the whole to give you a chance to review what I have on here and then talk about it briefly on committee of the whole. And so because I don't want to belabor that and have a second night where we're going to talk a lot, I'm going to shut up right now, and I don't have anything else to say about this unless for some reason, other than I'm putting on committee of the whole, unless for some reason you have a question right now about any of that. Does anybody?
I just encourage everyone to look at it next week, see if there's any particular issues so that we can settle this next week and not drag it out till next month.
Yeah.
So please, everyone look at it.
Yeah, and I'll have it on the agenda for next week. Then end of the year reminders. I highlighted some ones that will require action in either November, December. Meeting dates, as I just mentioned, usually that's in December. A new fee resolution, I will give you a draft of that at the Finance Committee meeting. Approval to advertise the budget, that usually happens in November, assuming that you approve a preliminary budget in Finance Committee next week. Approval to advertise a tax ordinance. The solicitor has said that if you're not changing or increasing taxes, you don't have to do it by ordinance. You can do it by resolution. I don't know where you want to go with that. We'll talk about that certainly in finance, but if you're going to make a change, that's how you would do it. Usually you approve the Citizenship Award nominee at the meeting in November, and usually you have a motion that authorizes me to advertise for committee and board vacancies so that people whose terms are expiring know that they can reapply if they want, or if there are seats open, we have a formal process again of asking people to apply for those. So those are some things that are coming up. Does anybody have any questions about end of year reminders? Okay, the last thing I have then is we're close on the rodent baiting thing. We do have 2 quotes that I'd shown you last month. Annette and I are working out the details with the company. She and I just have to sit down and meet. We've gotten some more information from them. I just need to sit down with her. We should have one selected soon. And I already mentioned about borough policies and why you should review them, so I'm not going to go any further with that. And unless you have a question for me, I don't have anything else. So I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morris. Solicitor's report, Mr. Corbel, anything?
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. You know, I really don't have much of a public report tonight. we just met a week ago, and still working on all the things we discussed at that meeting. And we'll have an update for you all in a couple weeks when we meet for the voting meeting on the 15th.
Thank you.
Unless somebody has a question, certainly happy to address anything if anybody has a particular question. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Corbel. Really not a whole lot to cover tonight. We got the citizen award settled. We did talk about the future of the Tree City Times. Angela and I have talked, and he's going to, so it's not an abstract discussion. He's going to try to put together a sample of what potentially a digital version of the Tree City Times would look like. So you can really get get your hands around what that would look like, and we'll have that for you, hopefully relatively soon in the future. We have the issue of putting together an Arts and Culture Advisory Council. I did bring it up last week. We had the recommendations from a community panel, and I did ask, and it's listed there, anybody have any comments. I did get some suggestions from a couple council members, nothing earth-shaking, but I did get a chance to go through them all because they were pretty recent, so I'll look into that. And then I think we can, I think what I can do then is just take that and send it off to Mr. Corbel to draft a potential ordinance that will put this together.
That is relevant soon because we may have an opportunity to apply for a grant to help fund the activities of the Arts Council, but that grant application is due November 30th. So I would like to know sooner than later if that's likely to happen so that I can put that in motion so that that organization will have some resources to go forward with in the beginning of next year sometime. They wouldn't be awarded till March or April anyway.
All right, thank you. But if anybody does, I think I'm going to suggest to Mr. Corbel that the most recent ordinance that we have on an advisory council is the EAC one, and that's probably a really good template moving forward for when we also revise the Parks and Recreation Council, because it's a much more thorough ordinance than we've had in the past. Anything else I'm missing here? Okay, does anyone else have anything else here?
Yeah, Mr. Lawrence.
Yes, please.
Yeah, just in order to do a mock-up of the newsletter and how that would work, I would have to set up an agreement with one of those companies, like either MailChimp or Constant Contact, and I'd have to do that stating that it was on behalf of the borough. I would use a free account for now. So if there's no objection to that, or if that's not, if it's permissible, that's what I would like to do.
I don't see any problem with that. Mr. Morris?
Mr. DeMarco has a question.
Yeah, Angelo, if you had a choice between them, I think Constant Contact is really good because it gives you a number of options that are not available on MailChimp. I've used both. And I don't know what your opinion is, but I find Constant Contact a little more useful in terms of tracking and also using for event reservations and other such things.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Anything else that anyone would like to bring up under this committee tonight?
Just
right,
one.
It looks like
I don't know where this comes, but we're in the process of updating the climate action plan. I have personally retained an intern who has been working on the data, and he has gone as far as he can, given that the gas company is non-responsive, which is a problem everyone is having. And I will be receiving the information from him probably later this weekend. And we'll hope to have a draft by the next Ops and Policy Committee. I'd like to send it to the EAC before it comes to all of you.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else from anyone? Okay, I think that ends any business for this committee.
Okay, with nothing else going on then, next meetings are a week from today. The Zoom will come out a day or so ahead. Thank you, everybody. See you next Thursday night. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.